Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nemeka Onyeka Obiri. There is no substance to life without positive impact and impartation to mankind. I want to use this medium to proffer solutions on how the hundreds of thousands of millions of SMEs and corporates that are being destroyed or actually destroyed by the sudden devaluation of Naira can be rescued. We have seen the report of multinational companies. We've seen Nestle. Nestle got wiped out in 1 year. FX devaluation losses of 195 billion Naira. The conglomerate that has turnover of almost $2 billion globally, their Nigeria subsidiary, suffered a hit, and their shareholders' fund wiped out negative 78 billion. We've seen the report of MTN, similar devaluation losses, 174 billion, shareholders' fund wiped out. Other companies, of course, we saw Dangote's report, 166 billion devaluation losses. They were able to absorb it because they had very huge turnover. And there are many other companies in the real sector, manufacturing, trading, agriculture, agro-processing, that are heavily hit. There is a question that most Nigerians have not asked. You know, I read the piece by one British guy that was trying to say, oh, there's nothing wrong with an economy that is going at that the economy that is going at 3.45% is not in a mess. And I feel like choking, because some of these guys do not really understand the depth of the challenges we have in Nigeria and how we can easily overcome it if we are very sincere. Nobody is saying there is no problem. There are problems and there are solutions. Today in Nigeria, a lot of companies are at the brink of collapsing, and some have actually collapsed. If the deposit money banks, the MDs of the banks and the operators of the banks can be very honest with themselves and not doctor their books, they will tell us sincerely the true situation of things. Many companies, hundreds of thousands of companies, are having delinquent loans and non-performing loans in the banking industry because of this sudden FX devaluation that saw the Naira dropping from 460 Naira to $1 official market rate to the current 1,650 Naira to $1 over a space of 8 months. Very unprecedented in the history of Nigeria. I am not here to lament. I am here to profile solutions on how we can get out of this. I know of many companies that are carrying billions in holes. Banks are asking them to bring the Naira, and I wonder where they will bring the Naira. Most banks are not even willing to restructure the loans, convert the FX obligations to Naira, and then allow them to trade out over 5 to 10 years. Most banks are not listening to that, because even the collateral that the people submitted, the company submitted, have been eroded by those FX losses. So basically what most of them will do is to declare bankruptcy, walk away, and the banks will be carrying carcasses. And of course, we are currently have about 5.3 trillion at AMCON, practically assets that are not even redeemable. And it will be tragic for us to have additional 7 trillion dropped on AMCON, because that is what is basically going to happen. The CBN governor told us clearly, Yemi Kadoso, it's not his fault, he inherited it, that we have outstanding FX forward obligations of about $7 billion that could not be redeemed by the previous government and the CBN leadership. And that is FX obligations, forward obligations that were procured at 430 Naira, 450 Naira to $1. Today we're talking about 7 trillion Naira obligation that we are not redeemed. And let me tell you what happened here. Most of the manufacturers, most of the traders, most of the small, medium enterprise and corporates that have dollar obligations to their creditors, which the CBN could not deliver, had already deposited their Naira in their bank accounts with the deposit money bank. It's not as if there was no Naira, but the Naira was there, but the CBN, who is the custodian of dollar inflows and outflows in Nigeria, could not deliver on those forwards. It's actually a contract that they owe and which they could not fulfill. It's a failure of the state's topmost institution, financial institution, the banker to government and banker to bankers. So we're talking about 7 trillion naira plus more. We are looking at almost between 10 to 14 trillion naira hole in the banking industry. Many MSMEs are clutching and they cannot survive. So how do we help them out? And this is a suggestion, a creative way that the monetary policy managers, the CBN and the federal government of Nigeria can come around and help these companies. As of today, there are still outstanding obligations that the CBN could not clear. What do we do? I've advised this government and I will keep on advising. In sincerity, no ill feeling. My desire is for Nigeria to work. My desire is to see 197 million poor people exit poverty. My desire is to see at least 90% of the working population of about 110 million people engaged in active work. My honest desire is to see a Nigeria that is secure and collectively prosperous for everybody. A GDP growth of 3.3% that is not inclusive and does not remove people from poverty does not make sense. And if you look at the numbers and if you break it down, the two sectors that have the highest employment, that they employ the highest number of Nigerians, are agriculture and manufacturing. Between agriculture and manufacturing, over 80% of Nigerians are employed within those sectors. But interestingly, agriculture only grew by about 1%, at the 1.3%. Manufacturing grew by about 1.1%. Those are not the kind of growth that will take Nigerians out of poverty. We seek a growth of at least 20 to 50% on agriculture year on year and agro processing, which we can easily achieve if we tackle insecurity and put in place an integrated and harmonized policy and program framework between the state, federal government and local government areas. Nigeria has capacity with our arable land mass, with low technology as required for agriculture, with the kind of population we have. If we can tackle insecurity and put in place the right structures, this country can produce everything we consume and export nothing less than $100 to $200 billion worth of varied agro commodities across the sectors. So, but before we even talk about moving forward, we need to tackle the problems at hand. There are many companies, thousands of companies that are carrying holes in the banks. How does the CBN help here? These companies are not having those holes because they did not do well. They traded well, manufactured well, sold their goods, put their Naira in the bank. But because the banks and the CBN could not secure dollar to help them pay their creditors offshore, they are now caught in the trap hole of FX devaluation. A company that made a profit of 200 million naira and have paid taxes on it are being now asked to bring 10 billion naira FX devaluation losses. Where would they find? Even if they sell everybody in that company, sell their MD, sell everybody, sell everything, they cannot get that money. So how do we help them? They are not going to die. Nigerians must create structure that can help them to trade out these losses. That is where the CBN comes in here. NPR rate is 22.75% with a band of plus 100 basis points and minus 700 basis points, which simply means that CBN can actually lend to the commercial banks at 15%. It can actually borrow from them at 15% and then lend. CBN can actually look at how they can creatively work around this. The banks under the bankers committee should meet with the CBN, submit the list, at least for those who are into manufacturing and processing, for those who are into agric and agro processing, the key sectors. Look at those companies who have massive holes in their books, FX losses that was not a creation of their own making, that is exogenous. Nobody will have actually, there's no investment banker, there's no economist, there's no person anywhere in the whole world, even a seer, that will have predicted accurately that a country could all of a sudden see its currency devalue by over 200% within the of 8 months. It has never been seen before in the history of mankind, not even Nigeria, if I'm to recall. Now what do we do? Like I said, CBN should speak with the banks, put together the list of companies, MSMEs, corporations in the agri sector that are carrying this kind of holes. CBN should ask the banks and provide them with the Naira. Let them create 5-year facilities for these companies as single digit. If single digit is going to be very difficult, at least maximum 15%. But single digit will be the best option. Convert their dollar obligations to Naira. Make it single digit and stagger it over 5 years to enable them trade out. And then seek for dollar anyhow to pay on these obligations. The creditors that supply raw materials are offshore. It will boost their confidence if they can receive payment for goods supplied to Nigerian companies and for which they have not received payment. It is called documentary letter of credit, and the banks in Nigeria are responsible until those obligations are paid to their correspondent bank. And the companies are also responsible because those obligations were created in the first instance for them. So CBN should help here. Federal government should come in here. I'm not asking people to go and print Naira. The ways and means that you have already done is killing us. Let the central bank intervene. Let the banks create single-digit loans for those LC obligations that are outstanding. LC obligations that were created when Naira was 430, 450. That is the right thing to do. In an economy and a country where leadership is very empathetic, where leadership is very compassionate, where leadership is very creative, that should be the best solution. Create single-digit inflation, single-digit Naira loan for them, and look for dollar. And I don't know why we are still looking for foreign portfolio. The easiest way we can inflow dollar here. NNPC today is not efficiently run. NNPC today is not transparent and accountable like the Nigerian liquefied natural gas. And we know this to be true. Nigeria toyed with the idea of raising money by securitizing future dividend payments from Nigerian liquefied natural gas. We toyed with the idea because NLNG is very profitable and run and operated in the most efficient manner with good corporate governance culture, because it is owned 51% by private investors and 49% by the federal government through the NNPC. What stopped us from adopting the same structure in NNPC? Even Aramco did IPO to show you that they love transparency. Emirates Oil, Petronas. British Petroleum was once held 100% owned by the British government. Today is wholly private sector driven. Why would the federal government not put in place measures to divest 55% of the federal government holding in NNPC? That alone will release about $32 billion on incubate fund into the federation account, into the CBN, that will help us to boost liquidity in the market. By doing this, NNPC will now become like Nigerian liquefied natural gas. Appointment of the board and management and even staff of the company will no longer be based on any nepotistic inclinations. It will be the best of the best will be employed there. The best of the best will run the board and management without being harassed by National Assembly or any political and primordial consideration that is antithetical to excellence and good corporate governance. When we do this, massive investment will come into this country. Nigeria has technical capacity. We have technical capacity to produce 2.5 to 3 million barrels of crude oil every day. But we are currently doing 1.3, 1.5 with condensate, which does not make sense. If we divest the federal government holding in NNPC and allow private sector operators, I'm not even asking you to bring foreigners, local operators in Nigeria, companies can come as a consortium, the same way the Renaissance consortium came together to buy the SPDC onshore assets. You bring local consortium here. I tell you, if you decide to do it today, and the NNPC is fully divested from by the federal government 55%, and is so transparent. If NNPC want today to raise diaspora bond of $50 billion to explore more oil well, to open up the old marginal fields, to bring in rigs, get private investors, private people like Kegos to bring in rigs and all those stuff, I tell you, Nigerians will subscribe fully to it. Diasporans are ready and willing to support Nigeria and to support this government. But we need to put in place a transparent structure. Nigeria can ramp up our oil reserves to about 40 billion barrels. Nigeria can produce 3 million barrels every day. We can fulfill our OPEC quota of 1.5 and use the remaining 1.5 to refine here. Anybody who is going to get a marginal field in Nigeria today is not going to be like the old arrangement where people collect paper and then look for investors and try to resell it. You must provide evidence of capacity with a bank guarantee from a first-class European bank or American bank that they will fund you, and that you must also build modular refineries to refine everything that will produce here. We need to move from the level of just extracting to refining. Cocoa, we exported $709 million worth of cocoa in whole Nigeria. Nigeria can do more than $5 billion worth of cocoa. We can produce 3 million cocoa tons of cocoa beans annually, and we can process everything here. Chocolate market global is about $92 billion. Why are we so vested with exporting raw material, exporting crude oil alone, when we can actually refine 1.5 million barrels every day here and cover the whole of Sub-Saharan Africa as our market? Before somebody comes from Kazakhstan, comes from Rotterdam, comes from every far part of Europe and Asia with their refined petroleum product, the ones who refine here will cover the whole of Sub-Saharan Africa, because we have better opportunities of less logistics cost. And these things are not skyrocket science. These things are simple things that can be done. But I know it will be a tough order for them. They will not want to divest their holdings in NNPC because it's a slush fund of political people, governments from 1999 till now. Because if they divest 55% from NNPC and allow private sector investors to come in and it will become operationalized like the LLNG, they may not have time to play games. A transparently run NNPC will bring in only the amount of products that we will consume. There will be nothing like nepotism in allocation of PMS, AGO to anybody. Everything will be competitively done because other refineries too will be there to compete. Prices will come down. I have shared with us also a special arrangement that we can put in place to subsidize production of some certain dedicated crude of about 495,000 barrels a day in such a unique JV that has cost plus margin of 30% that will ensure that we do not buy any white petroleum products, AGO, PMS, aviation fuel at more than 750 naira per liter anywhere in Nigeria, no matter the price of the crude oil or the refined petroleum product anywhere in the whole world. These are ideas, creative ideas we have shared with this government on how they can make this country work. We've said it. They told us the other day, oh, the refineries will work January. This is March. None of the refineries are working. So what stopped them? Even if they don't want to unbundle those refineries, get private sector investors take over those refineries. Kaduna is practically dead. I won't advise, they should scrap Kaduna because we cannot be importing Venezuelan crude to refine in Nigeria. Scrap the Kaduna refinery. It doesn't make any sense. Warri is 125 barrels a day, 125,000 barrels capacity. Port Harcourt is 210,000 barrels. The new investors will collocate about 160,000 barrels of crude refinery there. It's about 8 billion, but with the kind of facilities for it will be about 4 billion to put it together. With 495,000 barrel per day refining capacity under this JV arrangement, cost of production of crude oil is about $31 max. It's actually $17 in Nigeria, but by the time you put in the cost of security and everything, $31 max. Cost of refining a barrel of crude oil is about $10, $40. 30% margin on top of it is $13.03, 30 cents. $53.30 will represent cost plus 30% defined margin. Multiplied by 1,500 naira current exchange rate official. That's about 79,953 naira per barrel. A barrel is made up of 159 liters of the product, petroleum derivatives as you crack them, 78 liter of PMS for 3 liters of AGO. If you divide it, it will give you a cost plus margin of 506 naira per liter. By the time you put all that cost, logistics, freight, administrative, highest you can say PMS, AGO, aviation oil anywhere in Nigeria is 750 under this subsidized production arrangement that we have a Nigerian petroleum trading company just like Mbet in Power to offtake everything. Ipman will be members of that SPV. Darkman will be there, Moman will be there. No peng will be there. It will be such transparently run SPV that nobody will be tempted or even be had the incentive to smuggle any of those products meant for the market outside Nigeria. Then all of that refiners are going to come in, refine, sell to Cameroon, sell to Nigeria, sell to Benin Republic, sell to Togo, sell to Cote d'Ivoire, take over the Sub-Saharan African market, and this country will fly. Then fix security. These things are not skyrocket science. May God help us. I'm tired. I won't curse again. I promise myself I'm not going to abuse anybody. I'm not going to curse anybody. We'll keep on saying this truth. We'll keep on sharing these solutions. These things are no skyrocket science. These things are the simple. Nigeria is the simplest economy to run, to create what? Nigeria has such a marvelous demography that if you bring the Prime Minister of Singapore, if you relocate the people of Singapore to Nigeria today, I'm being honest with you, with the kind of structure and things they are doing there, in the next 10 years, Nigeria will become the biggest economy in the whole of, well, the third biggest economy in the whole world. The problem we have is structural. We are part of the problem. We know the right things to do. We won't do it. We know the right people with the right head to do these things. We won't engage them to do it. We won't even beg them. They prefer easy solutions, free solutions. Yet we will not do it. Why are we this wicked in this country? May God have mercy on us. Amen.
La, la, la.